Vamos entonces, como recién el ingeniero Musi nos comentaba, vamos a tener la oportunidad de conocer la opinión de referentes internacionales en el tema de genómica, y lo vamos a hacer de la siguiente manera. Se les ha propuesto una serie de preguntas, como la primera de ellas es: ¿cuál es la principal ventaja de la evaluación y selección genómica en el ganado de carne? ¿Para qué rasgos piensa que el uso de la información genómica es más importante? Con el uso de chips de alta densidad para genotipar el ADN, para predecir los valores de cría, quizás lleguemos a un punto en el que ya no haya necesidad de mantener registros fenotípicos. ¿Cuál es su opinión? ¿Cree que es muy importante migrar de microsatélites a SNPs para la verificación de parentesco en los programas de evaluación genómica? ¿Cree que los predictores genómicos de los valores de cría moleculares calculados en un programa nacional de evaluación de ganado para una raza en un país funcionarán bien en otro país para la misma raza? ¿Podemos hacer buenas comparaciones entre países? Y finalmente, ¿cuál es la precisión adicional que podemos obtener para evaluar un ternero con la ayuda de datos genómicos para diferentes características con distinta heredabilidad? Vamos entonces a ver el video que nos va a dar las opiniones del doctor Dan Moser. Dan Moser, quien es graduado en Animal Science de Kansas State University, tiene un PhD en producción animal en la Universidad de Georgia, fue profesor de la Universidad de Kansas State, actualmente es presidente de Angus Genetics Incorporated, director de los programas de performance de la American Angus Association y es un referente mundial en esta materia de genómica.
Buenos dias. I'm Dan Moser, president of Angus Genetics Incorporated in St. Joseph, Missouri, USA. I appreciate the opportunity to address your Beef Genetics Forum at the invitation of Dr. Horatio Gateau. Hopefully our experiences in this area can be helpful to you and your breeders as you move forward in this area. I'd like to start by telling you a little bit about AGI, which is a part of the American Angus Association. AGI provides genetic evaluation services to other breeds and provides genomic testing services. We have a team of 4 geneticists on staff, as well as 6 customer service representatives that work with our breeders to help facilitate genomic testing. We have great partnerships with other parts of the American Angus Association, like information systems, as well as our Angus Media Communications Group. And we have partnerships with genomics labs like Neogen and Zoetis. We rely on the University of Georgia for our genetic evaluation software. As I mentioned before, our mission is to provide genetic evaluation services to the American Angus Association, but we also provide genetic evaluation for Canadian Angus, American Charolais, Canadian Charolais, Senepol, and Maine Anjou breeds. One of the questions I was asked to address is the advantages of genomic evaluation in beef cattle improvement. And we see from our experience with the American Angus Association that we can greatly accelerate the rate of genetic change by using genomic testing as part of our genetic evaluation. With genomics, we're able to evaluate many more animals for more traits at earlier ages than we could have otherwise. Here's an example of American Angus Association EPDs, or expected progeny differences. This is an animal before it was tested with genomics. This particular animal was born from embryo transfer, and so there were no phenotypic records whatsoever on this animal. You can see that the accuracy of the EPDs for some traits is very low, and for some traits there are no EPDs at all. After the animal was genomically tested, we saw much higher accuracies for traits like birth weight, weaning weight, and yearling weight. And for traits like carcass traits, marbling, carcass weight, ribeye area, and fat, not only do we have higher accuracies, but we have EPDs at all, where before that animal would not have had EPDs until it was old enough for ultrasound scanning. So if a breeder was going to make a selection decision at weaning, they wouldn't be able to know anything about the animal's genetic makeup for those traits at that age. And then some traits that are very difficult and expensive to measure, like dry matter intake and residual average daily gain, a measure of feed efficiency. This particular animal does not have a feed efficiency record, but because we have many animals that have been measured for feed intake, we can use genomics to extend that information and make an accurate genetic prediction on this young animal. But it's not just DNA that makes genomic testing work in the Angus breed. It's also the amount of data that's been collected by our Angus breeders. And so DNA testing works hand in hand with data collection to provide more accurate evaluations. And the fact that we have a large number of records for many traits makes genetic evaluation with genomics work in the Angus breed. One of the questions I was asked was to address whether a time will come when we won't need to measure animals anymore. And I really believe that day will never come. I believe that that phenotype recording, weaning weights, birth weights, yearling weights, ultrasound records, calving yeast scores, scrotal measures, carcass records are more important than ever, and that we'll always have to collect those. While some animals can have EPDs without measuring those, over time, if we fail to continue to collect those records on the newest generation of animals, not only will the accuracy of the genomic test results not go up, it will actually go down. It will decay over time. And so genomic technologies are only as strong as the database. And so it's not just the DNA, it's also the data recording. And so breeders need to commit to continue to collect data and probably start collecting data on some new traits that they hadn't collected before, so that we can ultimately build a genomic evaluation for those. I was also asked to talk about SNP parentage, and it's the American Angus Association converted to SNP parentage almost 10 years ago now, and that is the only way that we assign parentage here at our association, and that's true of all the breed associations, to my knowledge, in the United States. We really believe that SNPs are the future and can see no reason to use microsatellites. That's partially because SNP testing is the basis of all the genetic improvement programs, the genomic profiles, the 50K Angus GS type tests that are used in genetic evaluation are all SNP based. And so in the future, we're certain that SNPs will be what we use for parentage as well. And so if you're already testing an animal for genetic evaluation with SNPs, then adding 100 or 200 parentage SNPs to those panels, it's already included. There's no additional cost. It doesn't require an extra test to run. So we would encourage your organizations in your country to convert to SNP parentage, and are happy to assist by providing SNP genotypes on some ancestral American Angus animals, if that would be of benefit. I was also asked to talk a little bit about genetic genotype by environment interactions. The question about how animals rank across environments. And it's been our experience, of course, we have variation in our country, just as you have environmental variation in your country. And as we compare cattle performance from subtropical regions of Florida and South Texas to quite cold winters in Montana and North Dakota, we see very similar rankings for bulls for traits like growth, milk production, and carcass traits. And so we would expect that as we look more broadly across countries and move into the area of international evaluations, there is real benefit to sharing data across countries, and truly believe that we can gain accurate evaluations by measuring animals in one environment and making selection decisions in another environment. We do know, though, that there are some particular traits that are important for environmental adaptability, particularly in hot versus cold climates. Things like hair coat become important, and so traits like that are always going to be important, and so it is important to try to identify the most adaptable genetics to an environment. But we think that we can assess that in the native environment and then translate that information to a different environment. So we look forward to working with other Angus associations and other associations of other breeds to try to build more international genetic evaluations in the future. Another question that was asked was how much accuracy do we gain from genomic testing in the Angus breed? And again, we gain a lot of accuracy, not just because we have a lot of DNA testing that's been taking place in the Angus breed, but also because we have a lot of data recording. But it's not unusual for us to see similar EPD accuracy in Angus cattle, young Angus cattle with no progeny, just to show the same kind of accuracy as perhaps a bull that does not have genomic testing but has 10 to 20 progeny recorded. You can see in this table with a trait that's higher accuracy like birth weight, we see the same kind of accuracy on a newborn calf with a genomic test as we would for a more proven bull without genomics that has 21 progeny. For some of the more heritable traits like mature size and carcass records, it's in the 8 to 9 progeny range. But again, that's very significant because those are highly heritable traits. Having that sort of progeny records would make a major contributor to EPD accuracy. For some of the less heritable traits, like heifer pregnancy, for example, we still see a significant number, even though it's a lowly heritable trait, only 15% heritable in our database. We still see equivalent accuracy from genomic testing as if a bull had 14 progeny recorded for that particular trait. So again, it's been a real pleasure for me to visit with you. Feel free to send me an email at the address below if you'd have more questions about genomic testing in Angus cattle. And again, thank you to Dr. Guiteau for the invitation to speak at your conference. I look forward to visiting your beautiful country again sometime soon.